Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jaquan Weaver, and today I'll be talking about percussion in its entirety. We'll touch bases on how percussion started in the beginning of time. We'll talk a little bit about percussion here in Norfolk State, and we'll also touch on the technique of playing the snare drum. Rhythm is the means of organizing sound and specific energy formulas to harmonize the mind and body. Chanting, rhythmic breathing, and drumming are all forms of ancient technology for directly synchronizing the mind and the body complex, creating conditions for psychological and physical healing. Percussion is the striking of an object to produce a sound. So basically, anything can be a percussion instrument, from the clapping of one's hands to the smacking a bottle on the table to just patting your feet. Scientists speculate that the men in the Netherlands use 35,000-year-old bone flutes. Percussion goes back even further than 100,000 years to the Neolithic era, where they had whistles made of saga antelope bones. Studies clearly show that the music, and more specifically percussion, can be traced back as far as any civilization. The origin of drums started off a lot simpler from what we know today. It started off as stumping, digging a hole in a pit into the ground with planks of wood. They would then jump up and down on these planks to provide a renaissance, producing a pleasing sound. There are many different techniques when it comes to the world of percussion. Today, we'll just touch on the technique of the snare drum. When setting up a snare drum, you should have the snare drum come waist high. While playing the snare drum, there are two different ways to hold a drumstick. We'll touch on these two different ways. The first way is traditional grip. Traditional grip, you take the right hand and hold it in the palm of your hand with your thumb on the outside of the stick. While your left hand, the stick will go in between this finger here, the ring finger, and the middle finger, and rest in there, and you will hold the stick with these two fingers, which create something we like to call the focal. And then you go from there and to produce the sound. While playing match grip with both hands, you drew just like we did with the right hand. Stick in this hand, thumb on the right, thumb on the side of the stick, stick in this hand, thumb on the side of the stick, and then you will continue to play on the drum. There are many different rudiments when it comes to percussion, four to be exact, and that is the beginning of learning how to play percussion. The single and double drums we know were adopted from Western Asia. The Western civilization is where implantation of memberphone that led us to the drums that we have today. Simpler than the drums we had. The drums we have today are much simpler than the ones in New Ghana, India, and Ethiopia, where they had so-called drums of the earth. Today, the percussion instrument we know, such as bells, harps, and a variety of drums, did not come until around 3000 BCE. Despite the fire and excitement that percussion brings to the band, they are referred to as the stepchild of the orchestra. Percussionists are never valued in any program due to the reason that percussionists are considered a dime a dozen. Percussion is looked at that way because just about every kid wanted to play drums at some point in their life. So that leads us to an influx of percussion, and band directors tend to look at them as replaceable. But here in Norfolk State, our band is under the direction of Dr. William Bethea, and he himself is a percussionist. So here we don't have to face that judgment or have to worry about being replaced because he know how it feels to be looked at as being replaceable. In closing, percussion is a complete world of his own. From the history of how you play drums and the culture. Percussionists are normally multi-faced and have many different talents because when playing percussion, The body is doing a lot of different things at the same time while still playing in time. Drums are nearly in every culture of the world. Drumming is something that everyone can do, and it doesn't require any musical talent or expensive instruments. In closing, percussion could be the saving grace for one's life. If it's just learning to play percussion simply by tapping on a desk or stomping your feet, it all falls under the umbrella of percussion. So when all fails, just beat it, in the words of Michael Jackson. Thank you for your time, and this has been my topic of top speaking on the world of percussion. You guys enjoy.